Um, Welcome to everyone who's here, reluctantly or not. We're just going to have a little chat. I welcome anyone that's in here to join us in the chat room, and I can relay that information to our panel here. I'm going to start by saying that John Fisher and Dave Kaval, this is to you. You were the worst thing to ever happen to the Athletics franchise. This team was among the first Major League Baseball teams and has been home to some of the greatest characters in baseball history. And you were given a license to print money when you bought this ball club, and you squandered it. John, you're a chicken. You're a coward. You hide and you make the public faces of this franchise make excuse after excuse for why you can't spend a dime. But the real reason is that you didn't want to. You made a choice, and you're too much of a coward to stand by your choices in a public setting. And Dave, you're a carnival barker. You came in here like Harold Hill and promised us the world. You threw catchy slogans and coddled the most diehard fans among us, but you, just like Harold Hill, couldn't deliver. You took a heel turn and completely abandoned this team's history and squandered any goodwill you may have created. You were both horrible for the A's, and you're horrible for baseball. And I have a sliver of doubt that you're actually going to get the deal done in Las Vegas, since we all saw how expertly you handled the Laney location. But I hope more than anything that your horrible decision-making and lack of respect for the gravity of your investment finally becomes apparent to the powers that be, and that you're forced to sell. Dave said just today that you can make movies about all the work we've done in Oakland trying to get this deal done. But you're not the hero of that movie, Dave. You're the villain. You're the Nate in this scenario, the young, promising star who turned on the same people who welcomed him in to the inner circle in order to serve his own ego and his own pocketbook. Today, I'm joined by Jennifer, Carl, and Kimm, diehard and prominent A's fans, and we're going to discuss our feelings, our memories, and our anger. So, like I said, please join us in the chat, and we will answer any of your questions, and be sure to follow all of them. Jennifer and Kimm, I'm sure you already know. Carl is AsFanByDesign, one of the founders of The Last Dive Bar, does excellent design work. And we're all happy to have all three of you here. Let's just start. Was any of this a surprise to anybody?
A little, yeah. I mean, yeah. I think when I think it was Casey who always had kind of a percentage, or sort of a it was 40-60, 50-50, whatever. Once he got down to 50-50 and it was, hey, this is anyone's game at this point, I kind of was sort of trying to mentally prepare that, yeah, this might just, especially with the radio silence for 6 months about Oakland, that's when I was kind of starting to think, yeah, this is getting real fishy. Something's weird about this. So when it finally happened, of course, it was a major blow, incredibly tough pill to swallow. But yeah, surprising. Not entirely, but surprising.
I mean, I was surprised too. And I'm still, I think, a little bit in shock because, and I've written about this 500 times over the last year. I didn't think it was going to happen. I've thought since day one that this was like a negotiating tactic to force Oakland into doing something, and also a scouting mission for the MLB for expansion. You know, I thought the teams aren't going to vote for this. Vegas isn't interested in having somebody else's sloppy seconds. They want their own, their own baseball franchise. So I thought that was going to be how it's going to go, from day one. I still kind of think it's going that way. Kimm and I were talking before we all started that there's already rumblings that the people in charge in Nevada aren't really totally on board yet. And Kaval said that now their focus is going to be on getting the support they need to do the relocation. Well, that includes getting 29 teams to say yes. And there's a lot of stuff in there. There's more reasons for them to say no than to say yes. Most of which is that $2-point-something billion expansion fee that they're not going to get for Vegas if they let the A's relocate. And Manfred's already said we'll waive the relocation fees, so that their share of $2.5 billion is out the window. Plus, it gives the Giants the biggest unshared market in the country, which means they're going to make more money. Which means that now the Yankees, who have to share their huge market, are going to have to spend a little bit more in order to compete with the Giants. And smaller market teams are going to just be sunk because they're not going to be able to compete with these rising expenses that the big guys are going to be able to handle. So it's like it's bad all around. I don't think they have the votes, but I was still surprised that they actually made the announcement.
Well, land deals have happened before. I mean, Fremont, I think they had land in San Jose. But this one, for some reason, I can't really put my finger on it. This one feels a little more real. I hope it's not. I hope I'm wrong, but this one just sort of stings a little more. So yeah.
Jennifer.
Yeah, I think with like everything that's happened the last 2 years with Vegas, that I feel like that gives a little bit more of a grounding aspect to it, which is still not great. But like as people pointed out, like they started removing Oakland in the name on some of the things that people mentioned, like in spring training, that nothing said Oakland, it just said like A's or athletics, or just the logo. Nothing was saying Oakland, and getting rid of the rooted in Oakland saying really was kind of the first indication that something was not.
Well, except
great.
for those cups, those new plastic cups they have, the ones you can get at the Bullet Bar. Every single one of those says "Let's go Oakland" on them, so they're gonna have to deal with that all season.
My plastic cup last week had no logos of any kind, so I'm not sure if those were back order or what was going on, but I did find that a little weird to get a cocktail with just nothing on it. It was like, okay, couldn't spare the extra pennies for the logo. I don't know.
Where it used to say Ring Central Coliseum, that's there's no branding anymore. It's not sponsored.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't even put anything in its place. It's just
it's just open. It's a void. Like my heart.
It's fine.
Just kidding. It's always been like that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's not particularly new or relevant to this discussion, but
just updating everyone.
Yeah, Dallas Braden actually posted something today. I think he was responding. He was he was in that group, that podcast that he's on with the other guys, and they were saying, hey, what would you like to say to the fans? And it's just a short video of him saying thank you. I don't know if you guys saw this. That was when I finally broke. I didn't shed any tears last night. I was super angry. My wife and I were out, and on our way home, she said, do you want to stop for a drink? I'm like, absolutely. We're stopping for one more drink before we go home, just to vent a little bit. And then today I was doing okay. I just kind of numbed to everything. And then I was, doom scrolling through Twitter, which is, Twitter's a real good time these days, especially today of all days.
Today's been off the hook.
And
it's been a day.
And that video love a meme from Dallas, that finally broke me. So
in the chat in the chat right now, E, that's all they've got here is the initial, reminded me of something that I had forgotten about. They're opening a cafe in the Oakland airport. This was just announced this was just announced within the last week.
In the the original terminal.
I saw it last year flying up to Seattle and was like, oh, that's an interesting choice.
With like,
why would they do that?
So that when you fly to Vegas via Southwest, you can stop by the A's Cafe.
I didn't think about it as an exit.
That's how I interpreted it, and I'm sure that maybe wasn't the original intent, and they just took a long time to build. But I'm salty, so that's how I interpreted it.
But they've known that this was coming. They knew where they were progress-wise in Oakland. They knew where they were progress-wise in Vegas. And they're selling us a bill of goods. If you believe what's coming out, like from Casey Pratt about what happened behind closed doors in Oakland, the team is selling us a bill of goods about the progress there. They were going to announce tomorrow that they'd made all this progress and that they were only $80 million short of the money that the A's had requested. Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So the A's telling us that the city isn't working with them. That's all bull. If you were to believe what you see on Twitter, the A's haven't had a single meeting since the new mayor was inaugurated. But if you talk to the city, they've had meetings every day for like the last 2 weeks. So but they knew that they were going to do this and went ahead with a friggin' cafe in the airport. I just don't understand how this team operates. And with all the garbage that they're putting out there right now, to spend the money on that. Thank you for bringing that up. Also, screw you for bringing that up. That just made me angrier.
I think there's a lot of collateral damage out of this whole thing. There's a lot of, all right, well, we're not really going to do this thing, but we have to do this thing. Otherwise, it'll look like we're not doing this other thing. So let's just spend the money, because in the long run, it'll all even out. It's fine. So I think that there were certain things like that where they're like, oh, don't worry about that. That's chump change compared to what we're really focusing on. I think that they just, like you said, knew what they were doing and were willing to, you know, break some eggs on the process of making their omelet.
Matthew Stassi asks if the A's meant for this to be a leverage play, and when the mayor told him to F off, it caught him by surprise.
100%.
I mean, if you were smart businessmen, that's the stupidest leverage play you could do. So obviously, that's exactly what they intended.
I think they were trying to use Vegas as leverage, and they pushed it too far. They pushed it to the point that the city was basically said, you know what? That seems to be what you want, so just go ahead and do that. And they called their bluff. I think that the A's kind of said, let's see how far we can push it. Oh, I see Jen has her hand raised.
I have my hand raised because I work in corporate, and so call on me. Tony, you mentioned something about being stupid business decisions, and it has been years of perplexing decisions that I just can't figure out why you wouldn't want to field an okay product. You don't have to have, you know, World Series caliber team, but you don't need to try to lead the league in every terrible metric out there. Or you can do things for the fans that are little to no cost, like acknowledging we exist, not trampling your season ticket holders who are pretty much guaranteed money until you absolutely screw them in every way possible. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's people that I've known that have been decades-long season ticket holders that are like, this is my breaking point. And I get it. I couldn't fathom. I only go most of the time because I get free tickets from people who can't sell them.
I did a thing early.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Mine was
okay.
Off
yeah. On the note about decades and decades. This is one of those things where since this is probably, I think this is their last season in Oakland. I don't think they're going to play in front of a small, angry, sad crowd next year. I think that they're going to figure out a way to maybe share the ballpark with the Aviators or something, assuming this all goes through. But that being said, when things started to get worse and worse, especially in the last couple of years, and especially when ticket prices were when ticket prices skyrocketed from between the 2020 prices and the 2022 prices, because there were no season tickets in 2021, so you really can just measure those two out. I actually went through and I found old invoices that to see how much the increase was each year. It was about 5% each year. All of a sudden it was 10% one year. Well, okay, no big deal. Then back down to like 2%, but it was fluctuating. Then it was all of a sudden, I think it was 37% increase for my tickets. My dad is actually the one who started season tickets. When I was born, he was already a season ticket holder, and I'm 42 years old. So I was born in 1980. He was a season ticket holder in the 70s. I don't know exactly which year, but he shared it with a bunch of friends of his, and then eventually he passed away, and I just kind of kept it going. I put everything in my name and all that, and so I kept it going and haven't missed a year since. I'm going to ballpark it at 50 years. And in fact, there was a year when they gave out scarves to season ticket holders, and I got 2 20-year scarves because they just didn't have anything over 20. So they just gave me 2. But I've told people multiple times, the only reason why I kept continuing it is because I thought they were going to stick around, and I thought that my decades of seniority would come in handy when they break ground at Howard Terminal and they say, okay, well, let's go through the list and see who wants to pick their seats and blah, blah, blah. But this is a real rough way to go out, considering all the decades and decades and thousands of dollars that have been dumped in every season for 50 years. And the skyrocketing of the prices, that's when a lot of people were like, I'm out, this is stupid. the team's worse. Yeah. So I don't blame anyone for doing that. But for me, it was tough because I share it with a bunch of people, so I only go to like a handful of games. But it got harder and harder to get people to join my group each year. In fact, this year was the hardest because a lot of people from last year quit, and the year before that, a lot of people quit. So I get the whole decades and decades, and I just didn't think it was going to end this way.
Carl, would it ease your mind at all to know that ticket prices actually went down when you paid 40% more? Because that man sat in this, I sat right in this chair as that man said to me in real time the ticket prices went down. And I actually cited Kimm specifically in that interview and was like, my friend went from $2,000 to $4,000. How is that less money?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know, but Common Core math.
I meant to applaud you on that interview. I watched the entire thing. That was a fantastic interview. For anyone who has not watched Tony's interview,
watch it.
It is amazing. He just hits all the hard questions that everybody was thinking at the time, and just cuts right through the BS. And Dave liked to dance around all these things and say all these things that were just not true. And he's like, "Oh, you could $15, you can sit in the third deck, and we got a young, exciting team." And just no,
not our third deck.
Yeah, that's nice of you to say. That interview came the same day we did that. The same day that he challenged Damon Bruce to an Elon Musk moderated debate. Why Damon Bruce, as a radio journalist, would want to do a debate versus an interview, I'll never know. And then after the interview, he had a fight with a parody Seagull account, and then disappeared from Twitter. And I actually counted. I did an article a month ago, and I counted, and he had over the course of a year almost done like 20 tweets, and all of them were pictures of him at a ball game or ducks on a pond.
Oh my God,
and that was it.
On a pond.
He went from making sure everybody in that park had a hot dog in their hand to 20 tweets over the entire course of a year after that day of just horrible PR. Yes, Jen.
I like that Jen keeps raising her hand.
I'm going to keep raising my hand when I want to interject because I don't like interrupting. Do you recall, Tony, where in the timeline this was happening from when Dave tweeted from the Golden Knights game in Vegas while the A's were actively playing the Mariners at home? Because I was at that game and I vividly remember the not happy chants that lasted innings. It was just colossally ill-timed, tone deaf. I mean, I could go on and on. It was oof.
I remember that.
My interview with him was almost a year ago to the day. It was the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season last year, and I think
so. It would have been after
the
infamous
tweet was May of 21.
Yeah, it was from the previous season. So.
Okay,
and
it was during the playoffs.
Season, right? Wasn't that 2021?
I'm gonna butcher this person's name. I apologize, or maybe I'm not. Crisel Cortez, who I'm sure we've all seen on Twitter.
Yes.
He just put in the chat, flash emoji, 100 emoji, duck emoji. So he is obviously Dave Kaval's burner account.
I knew it.
We have breaking news here, folks.
I'm convinced the Rally Possum account is actually Dave's burner because he's trying to weasel into our hearts with affection and cuteness. It's not going to work.
Good luck.
Working. I own 2 Rally Possum shirts.
Good luck. I've never seen somebody who he comes out of the gate and it's come to my open office hours. I know people that have his cell phone number. Kimm might be one of them. Are you one of them?
I'm not.
Well, somebody that we are both friends with, someone that we are both friends with sent me a message and he goes, I am very proud of myself for not texting him throughout this whole process. Because this guy was giving out his his cell phone number. This guy was offering people to come to office hours once a week. This guy was handing out his email to everybody who asked.
Yes, the email I do have.
building the tree house and all that kind of stuff. And then out of nowhere, immediate turn. I've never seen someone do that in real life.
Yeah. I remember how excited I was when he was rebuilding the West Side Club into Shibe Park Tavern. I thought that was super cool. I've always thought Shibe Park Tavern.
That was perfect.
Yeah, that was amazing. The food looked amazing. We had the most beer in MLB. We had like 99 beers or something. And everything just looked awesome. And I even actually made an Obama style poster that said hope with him on it. I'll tweet it tonight. The things have changed a bit. He also he invited a bunch of people who were A's influencers. Did you guys hear about this?
I was watching.
You were there. Okay, yeah, that's right. May have been the first time we met. A bunch of people who were A's influencers on Twitter. If you weren't invited, you didn't miss anything. And I know, right? There's plenty. I could make a shopping list of people that he missed. And he kind of went over
man of bad taste.
Howard terminal plan and told us all this stuff so that when people would ask things on Twitter, his little army of influencers could kind of deliver information and correct things that are wrong and just kind of help out with the Howard terminal cause. That was the last time anything happened with that. So
that was by him. Because we were in that meeting, so they took us into this lovely press room with a big TV, and he's going over all these slides, talking about everything. We were not allowed to like record anything. I know someone that did. I love that your cat's just like, hey. I mean, yeah, like that. I think that's what hurts the most is like all the stuff that they asked us to do. They would send us emails after, like every so often, like, here's what you need to tweet. And I was like, first of all, that's not how this works. I was like,
and that's why I wasn't invited.
Some people would just like, I saw people would like copy and paste it right into a tweet. And I was like, that's not how I talk, and people are going to know that that's not me.
Tony Fry, you have the floor.
You love that we're all raising our hands though. So
there's four of us. We'll be all talking all over each other. When he first took over, they did a focus group thing, right? I bet a lot of you were in the focus groups. And I got invited to the focus group because I had been previously a season ticket holder. And they, what's her name? Catherine Acker or whatever her name is.
Akers.
We're in this focus group, and some random person comes. It was like a scene out of a mob movie, right? Some random person walks into the room, and he points to me, and he goes, "Tony, can I see you in the hallway?" I'm like, the heck? I'm getting called to the principal's office or something. And so I go into the hallway, and Catherine's standing there, and she gives me this whole list of like, we're glad that you're here. It's great that you're here. We want you here to participate. We want to hear your voice. But as a member of the media, you can't do X, Y, and Z. And first of all, I was like, as a member of the what now? Like I had been writing for Swinging A's for a long time on Fansided, but that was done by the time this happened. I had my own site, but you weren't given media credentials or whatever, right? But she pulled me out, and all of a sudden it was like, you cannot report on the following things that we're discussing in this meeting. This same meeting that 55 people could have just tweeted right there in the meeting what was going on. But for some reason, and I always kind of took that, like, because they had that perception of me, that's how I could get Dave Kaval on the phone for an hour. But it was super weird. That was one of the weirdest moments I've ever had with this team, was being called out and told what I can't talk about. And obviously I don't care, but yeah, it was super weird, those meetings. Kimm.
So I went to one of those focus groups as well. So they had one like at the building next to where I was working in San Francisco. So I went, and it was quite an interesting experience. I think I talked with Jen about this the other night. Like, the people are like, if there's not a place to tailgate, I won't go. And someone was like, well, how often do you tailgate? And they're like once a year. And I was like, But they asked about a lot of things. And one of them was the prices. And every single person in that room, when they said, if the ticket prices increase, would you still go? And every person said no. And when it got to me, I was one of the last people who was like, you need to know your market. And this market will not stand for you increasing the ticket price. You can increase them at most like 12%. I was like, but I'm like, you have to keep in mind, you can't double and triple your prices and expect these fans to keep coming.
What focus group? Where was your focus group located?
I was in San Francisco at 44.
Because E here in the chat was saying that they were at the Walnut Creek site. Mine was in Pleasanton, I think. They were at Walnut Creek, and they said it was pretty weird vibes in theirs.
It was very strange.
Jennifer.
Having not been invited to all of these, I would just like to express my frustration that I didn't get to express my frustration. But Kimm and Tony have both brought it up about the ticket holders being price sensitive, which makes sense because they're not generally fielding a super competitive team. And it's nice when they do well enough to go to postseason, but that's not almost any year the expectation. And so it felt extremely deliberate, like a business decision to raise prices, to price out their season ticket holders, to cry, oh no, no one wants to come. And I'm like, you did this to yourself by selling off anybody that anybody could possibly get excited about. You're not making any sort of improvements in Oakland to move that forward. Carl, comment?
I was just going to add that I at that moment when they raised the prices, that's when a lot of people were saying, let's just boycott. Let's just not do it. And I really wanted to not do it, but I was like, if they stay, I got to stay in line, guys. Sorry. And so it put me in a really tricky position. And yeah, it just sucked.
And I know someone else that did that too, that they're like, I don't want to pay this increase, but the new stadium supposedly coming. I want to keep that seniority and have my rights so that when the new stadium comes, I can still get my tickets. And I had that up until it went from, 2,500 to over 4,000. I went, I'm sorry, how did my seat become that much more valuable? They're not winning. They're not going to win. You took away half of the perks that came with it. Why should I keep giving you my money?
New ballpark priority was actually even a line item on the list of benefits on the email they sent you. Yeah.
Oh, we have two hands raised. This is fun.
Go ahead, Jen.
We can thumb wrestle. As a proud business degree holder from the University of San Francisco, shout out. It is puzzling, the decisions that they made. So either this has to be the dumbest collection of people ever assembled, which let's not rule that out. I don't know them.
You don't need to have a second thing in that list. That is the answer.
Or they're evil. They can be evil and stupid. So let me just add a third column. But there's just no way that they're that inept, right?
No, it absolutely is. Other than revamping the treehouse and Shibe Park Path, which, Carl, you should be get your lawyers in line, because if they did Shibe Park Tavern, I'm like 3 shots of rum deep into this, so pardon the slurring. But if they did that in Oakland, they're going, when they go to Vegas, they're going to have a last dive bar. So be prepared to litigate that. But
lock that shit up.
Other than the treehouse and the tavern, the all access, which only lasted 1 season, what decision has Dave Kaval made since he was given this job? What decision has he made that you would consider a good business decision?
Well, they made the numbers up on Mount Davis diagonal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what?
So
you're right. The guy's a genius.
Yeah.
Just
slam dunk, worth every penny.
The man has done nothing but fail since 8 months into his tenure.
He should run for Congress. I mean, he is so qualified to just talk and talk and talk, and then nothing comes out from it. It's incredible.
No, if you listen to that interview I had, he did nothing but, and this is a year old, so it's old news. We've all talked about it. But he does nothing but spin it like a politician. That is, he operates as if he's running for Congress 100% of the time. And just like Congress, he has a huge list of accomplishments that he can rattle off one after another, and none of them mean nothing because he hasn't made everything he's touched has been a failure in this club. beyond the few cool renovations that he did to the Coliseum and the one ticketing plan that they immediately abandoned. Everything he's touched has been a failure. And if I was in a job for what's it been 6 years now, if I was in a job where I hadn't hit a successful idea in 5.5 years, I'd be fired. You know, and I obviously I'm going to keep repeating myself because this is all stuff I've written about on Hero Habit. But the ineptitude of this management group, from John Fisher to Dave Kaval to everybody, to the 6 people that work in Jack London Square at this point, they don't know what they're doing. And I was talking to someone privately earlier today who said, and he's a big baseball guy, a very prominent baseball tweeter. He said, if you only look at it from a business perspective, take your emotions out of it, take all of it, just look at it as if you were a shareholder. Dave Kaval and John Fisher are doing exactly what they're supposed to do, right? They have remained profitable. They're in the black. They're making money. The value of the team is rising. And my counter to his statement was that you are in a harbor, right, where the tide is rising. You could do nothing, and the value of your baseball team would go up because the value of all baseball teams are going up. And if you would take away their revenue share and all the other, they don't have a good TV deal, right? They are on a network that's partially owned by the Giants that they don't get a stake in. So their TV deal sucks. They have to pay to be on radio. I'd wager, AM radio, yeah. I don't know this to be 100% true, but I would wager out of 30 teams, they're the only one that are paying to be on the radio. So that's a bad deal. They've got the lowest attendance in baseball, almost comically so. They've got the lowest payroll in baseball, almost comically so. So if you are doing all these things and you still rely on the revenue share, you are not good business people. They are horrible at what they're doing. And the fact that they have bought into a business that is so entangled with nostalgia and history and family, right? I've moved out of California, but I wanted to take my son to an A's game in Oakland, right? He's been to an A's game, but it wasn't in Oakland. Now he'll never get to an A's game in Oakland. And you've taken that nostalgia. You are in the business of nostalgia and bringing families together and history and all that kind of stuff. And they squander that aspect of it. They are horrible at this job. Maybe Dave Kaval would excel, on the board of the Gap or something, but he is horrible at this job. This is not a business in the same way that the Gap or Starbucks is a business. This is an entertainment business. This is a nostalgia business. This is a broadcasting business. This is 50 businesses tied into one, and they're not good at any of them. And the way they've handled the relocation, they're also not good in the stadium construction business. Kaval did it once in San Jose, but that's, Major League Soccer in California is a far cry from Major League Baseball. Kimm.
Okay, so I have a whole bunch of points. One, so going back to like him talking like a politician, I remember being at a fan fest at Jack London Square with Eric, R.I.P. That's how long ago this was. And him talking, I was like, this sounds like someone on the campaign trail. I was like, half of what he's saying is obviously bullshit and just like talk. I was like, I don't care what you say. I don't want to hear a whole bunch of things. I want to know what your plan is to make them happen. And there was never a plan to make them happen. It was just saying things to fill space. And that was frustrating. In regards to A's Access, that was Chris Giles' project.
That's true.
And Chris was fantastic. The first sign that things were not going great was when Chris left. And it has been downhill since because Chris knew what he was actually doing.
That's true.
And he left, and all the like great ideas and business sense that he brought went with him. Yeah.
I'm going to have to turn off my camera for a second to refill my wine. So I'm just announcing my temporary departure. Also, I got really misty-eyed talking about Eric because I realized today, one, he would have been hysterical on Twitter if he was still alive. And it is just a crime that we don't get to hear his thoughts about all of this, because he was always so articulate and kind of just had a knack for saying exactly what you were kind of having trouble saying. And two, I don't remember where I was going with this because you got me all misty about Eric, but
my bad.
That's okay. Earlier today, someone said something and it reminded me of him. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad he doesn't have to see this. But also, I really am missing his tweets on this right now.
Which is like the shitty part with so many things that like all the great fans that we know and like players that have passed that you're like, I'm so glad you're not here for this. And that's not how it should be.
Yep.
Yeah. On that note, my dad passed away in 2013 before his three favorite teams. He, by the way, I mean, he did well, and he had season tickets to the Raiders, the Warriors, and the A's. And of course I miss him, but I'm glad that he did not have to witness his three favorite teams all leave Oakland in the span of 10 years. I mean, that is ridiculous. So at least he doesn't have to see that.
But see, this is what I'm talking about. You are in a business that every single one of us has a story about going to a game with our dads, about meeting a friend at a game, about meeting a romantic partner at a game. Whatever the case is, we all have these stories. This is not a movie that we all enjoy or a comic book that we all enjoy. This is something that's truly part of our
everyday life. Yeah.
Our everyday life. We watch this team 162 times a year. And when you're in the kind of business that can monopolize on that kind of nostalgia, where we will buy, right? Carl and I are about the same age. I'm 41, although I look 65, and a lot of that is due to the A's. When I was 8 years, I was born in 81, so I was 8 years old when the A's won the World Series in 89. Okay, the perfect age. And I was brought up by a Giants fan. My dad is a Giants fan, but I was the perfect age to fall in love with the A's, right? Ricky, Jose, Mark, Carney, Terry, all those guys, those are my guys. Dave Stewart, all those guys were my guys. I collected the baseball cards. I had the pennants on the wall. I went to the games. I heckled Jose Canseco from the bleachers, right? Those were my guys. And I've held on to that now for 30 years. And if you're in a business that can have a person like me who's got virtually no sentimentality at all, Kimm can attest to that, and you got me who gets choked up at the stupid montage video that they put out on opening day, right? I get choked up with that kind of stuff. I remember where I was in the third grade when Ricky Henderson broke the all-time steal record, because I had a friend, it was a day game, and I had a friend who actually went to the game. His dad pulled him out of school, and they went to the game, and he came back with a T-shirt. That is a vivid memory in my youth, right? This team has been with me for 40 years. And if you own a business that can tap into something that you've been a passionate, fan of for 40, 50, 60, however long years, and you can't get that right, you don't deserve to be in charge of that business. John Fisher does not deserve to have this team. Dave Kaval does not deserve to run this team. They are making me angry at something that I've loved my entire life. I was showing the guys this before. I've got a picture here that sits on my wall of the Oakland Coliseum. I have a single baseball card from every single top set, a single A's baseball card from every single top set from 1956 or whenever Topps started making baseball cards to today, right? I am the person that you could just say, give us $1,000 and I'd find a way to give you $1,000.
100%.
Right? Because the nostalgia is deep. The nostalgia is deep. All right. So I remember when I was a kid, and Carl might remember this because I don't think they did it when Jen and Kimm were kids.
Yes,
But
I am
there
the
was a
youngest
point-
person here.
Okay. You're 4 years younger than me. Calm down. So when I was a kid, if you went to, if you bought Kellogg's cereal, for 2 UPC symbols, you could get a ticket to whatever baseball game you wanted. Okay.
I
And
do
so,
not remember that.
yeah, so it was, and I have
Kim, are you
a,
questioning the math?
No.
I have
I
3
don't
younger
do-
sisters.
I
years
don't do
younger
math
than
on
you.
the fly. You know that.
I have 3 younger sisters, so my family taking any kind of group outing was
I'm the same
tough
age
because
as
with
Kelly.
my sister Kelly.
Yeah.
No, you're not. You're the same age as Michelle.
No, Michelle was a senior when I was a freshman.
No, she wasn't.
Yes.
What year did you graduate?
I am not disclosing that information on the internet, but I will message
I
you
think
privately.
I think you're incorrect, but
These are
okay.
the
no,
hard-
it's-
I will
The
bet you
hard-hitting
large
topics
sums
we're
of
covering
money.
on this panel.
all right, so you're
Yes.
the same age as Kelly.
Thank you.
She's still not that much younger than me.
Give me my 3 years back.
Okay. So anyway, so
Jeez.
when you did two
Tell us.
UPC symbols, you got a ticket to any baseball game you want. All right. I have 3 sisters, 3 of them. So there's 4 of us. We went through cereal like crazy, but we couldn't afford to take all 4 kids to a baseball game like crazy, right?
Yeah.
So we would save those UPCs. We would cash them in for tickets, and you get the 3rd deck, as high as you could possibly go because they were free tickets. But every single game we went, I would go with my dad, and he'd bring his friend and their son and all that kind of stuff. And by the 3rd inning, you're picking out which seat in the lower deck you're going to steal. And that is like, I think they did that for 2 years. That is a deep memory that I have, that like the friend's son that I went with is still in my memories because of those games. We wouldn't have gone to 5 games that season if not for those promotions because we couldn't afford it. But because of that, I became a lifelong A's fan. I remember parking across on the other side of 880 and walking across the bridge because you could park for free over there, and walking across the bridge. Those things are so ingrained in me. And if you can't capitalize on that, if you can't make $1 off of that nostalgia that I've got so deeply ingrained in me, you're a friggin' moron. And they are. And they're going to blow all that. They're going to throw away 55 years worth of that ingrained memory because Oakland couldn't fill the $80 million gap, a gap that the guy from the Gap could fill without even noticing it in his bank account. Kimm, you're on.
That was nice.
So everyone, the green room, but everyone jokes about the color. Does the color look familiar? Because it is designed to be like the
H&R
70s
Block.
A's.
I thought it was green
right.
screen.
Right.
Everyone says green screen, but it was like a throwback to like the vintage A's green.
Swinging green.
The swinging green, like and it happened to work out that it was a great green screen. But I have on my bookcase behind me, I keep this on there, and I picked it up and I was like, that's heavy and there's things inside of it. I opened it for the first time, clearly in a very long time, to figure out what it was, and now I'm depressed because it's my 2020 season tickets that I never got to use. And now I'm even more depressed because it's like, oh, sweet discounts, merchandise discounts, concession stand discounts, my free parking pass, all these things. I'm like, yeah, all of those are gone. Also gone.
Oh, Marcus.
I'm like, this is just a box of depressingness now. Thank you. But again, A's access.
That's the other
it was
question.
great.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around what, like, and there's no right answer for this. It's just a question.
I have the right answer.
What do you
Of course.
what do you do with all this stuff? Am I gonna continue wearing A's gear around? Am I still
Yeah.
going? Am I just? I don't know. I mean, and if they are they going to keep the green and gold and the name and all that stuff? And then do I look like I'm supporting the Las Vegas A's? There's just I don't know. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
I mean, hold on. Let me hold my hand back up. I have two thoughts before we move on to the merch, because I think that very much begs a discussion, because I've seen some like across the board things today about burning merch and, you know, do you want my stuff? And so I definitely want to discuss that. But what Tony was talking about, you know, was growing up and all that nostalgia. They're throwing that away from generations of folks that have come to the Coliseum. And I would have gone pretty much anywhere in Northern California, and I probably could have stomached Portland if it was done in a way that felt like we've exhausted our options and this is where we're at. But it felt like we were lied to about Vegas, and then it was like, surprise, we're building there. And I can't accept. But if they were interested in putting butts in seats, they have an entire third deck that has like 5 people on any given night. And God bless whoever keeps buying tickets up there, because they're staffing security, and you know it's costing them more than they made on those tickets. And I just think that's hysterical, because they're just roaming around there like gazelle. But if they wanted butts in seats, they could be charging $5 for just get up there access and get a wristband and just roam around. Like they're not trying to make money. That's abundantly clear. Back on the merch, I will donate some of the stuff that I will probably never ever wear again, just because I don't need 65 jackets and 35 t-shirts from every single thing that's ever happened over the years. I have like 2012 We Own the West shirts, and 2013 whatever the theme was that year, and 2014 All In, and 2014 This Is Impossible with the Possum. I mean, I have every thing that's ever been marketed at me. I'm like, oh, we'll buy that. I don't need all of those, but I can't fathom getting rid of my merch. The A's are still my team. I'm just never going to buy a single damn thing that has the word Vegas on it. And I can't imagine stepping foot inside of a stadium in Vegas, with the caveat that if it is my mother's dying wish to see the A's in their new place, I will go. I will be drinking, and she will be in charge of me, fully chaperoning completely. And she's not even overly invested in going to Vegas. She was like, well, I guess we'll just see the A's on the road now from now on. I'm like, that's the plan. Pardon the rambling. My hand is down.
It's fine. Kimm?
So obviously I'm a Raiders fan as well. And like, it's been a couple of years, and whenever it says LV on the score, it hurts still. And it's been 3 seasons now. I did a race in Vegas in February, and we, took a tour of the stadium. It's nice, it's gorgeous, it's lovely. It's not the Coliseum. I don't care how nice your stadium is. Like, that nostalgia, that feeling that you get when you're at your stadium is something that you can't replicate. You can't just build a new thing. Like look at Yankee Stadium. The new Yankee Stadium, like, it's not the same. Everyone says it's not the same. And that's what's so hard. Like, what hurts even more is that it's like, you've taken a second team. Really? Get your own stuff. Taking our stuff, you homewrecker. The merchandise.
I'm only gambling in Reno from now on.
The merchandise is hard, and like, I know Tony and I talked about this because we've all discussed going to Colorado for the series out there, and obviously we're talking about what would you do, and I mentioned, I was like, I might just wear my Kelly green that says Oakland and put a black stripe across Oakland. I'm like, you don't care about Oakland.
I'm only going to wear Oakland stuff from now on because I'm salty.
I'm wondering what jerseys they're going to wear on the road trip. I'm really curious, because half of their jerseys say Oakland, and you burn that bridge.
Carl?
I mean, I was going to say the only, I always wanted to get one of the like professional button-up jerseys, and I finally got one, and I knew I wanted it to say Oakland on the front and not Athletics, just to represent the city. And then the question was, well, what name do I put on the back? And I finally settled on nothing. I put no name on the back. I'm like, I can't think of a player who's going to stick around. And sure enough, here we are. What player? I mean,
yeah.
What the biggest
no-name jersey
we ever had was what, Eric Chavez, 66 million. Was that the biggest one?
Yeah.
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 Anyway.
I mean, I feel like all of us have at least one jersey with no name because that player can never be traded. They did for my first year as a season ticket holder. They gave full season ticket holders an authentic Kelly Green jersey, and we got to like pick the name and the number. So mine has Kimm, and then I think 18 because that was my first year as a season ticket holder, and every time I wore it, they lost.
I thought you were talking about when you said the jersey that they gave to season ticket holders. I thought you were talking about the Matt Olson jersey fiasco.
No, not that shit show. I'm talking about in 2018 when they gave a shit.
I stopped buying named jerseys. It took a little too long to learn this lesson, but let this be a cautionary tale to everyone out there. I bought a Cespedes jersey in mid-July of 2014, and I never got to wear it because he was traded to the Red Sox. I'm laughing because it's just fucking ridiculous. It gets worse. I bought a Donaldson jersey on Black Friday. He was traded while I was actively shopping and hadn't checked my phone. And it was a Black Friday sale, so no, you couldn't return it. So I have a Donaldson jersey that I finally wore years later after it stopped being so horrible. And then I have a Billy Butler jersey, which I bought in a tent sale, but that was because it was ironically hilarious that we have Billy Butler jerseys. Like they were like, yeah, people are going to want these and we're going to buy a bunch. So I crossed out his name and put Reddick because he's 16.
Which I laughed because like we went to the Mets and they didn't have anything for Canna or Bassett last year. And we're like,
or Marte. We couldn't find anything. We found a vintage Cespedes.
We found a whole bunch of vintage Cespedes, and I was like, I don't want this.
But it was like $400 Cespedes game worn jersey, and I was like, oh, I got like $50 to spend. What do you got?
So Q in the chat says, so you bought a blank jersey and the whole team went away. Thanks, Jen.
My bad. If I put Oakland on the back of a jersey, like, can it reverse things?
No, we should all put Las Vegas on the back, and then they'll come back to Oakland.
Oh.
So
that's the key. Things fall apart with that.
Honestly, it being my fault is very on brand, so I will take that.
Vegas number 27.
My bad, guys.
So I'm going to let the ridiculousness of buying a Billy Butler jersey just slip away and pass.
We're not going to talk about Tony, that. It's a conversation
that never happened.
Literally like a week ago when the A's were getting all sorts of bad press about 4,000 people showing up to their games, I wrote a piece that was saying that this wasn't intentional. You're seeing all these people that are coming out and saying this is exactly what ownership wanted. They want to be able to make the case that Oakland can't support a team. And that's ridiculous. I think there's no way it's intentional because there's 29 owners that know exactly how much the A's are spending on payroll. They know what they're spending on marketing. They know what the record is. They're not going to be fooled by this. There's no way the Mets owner is going to sit there and go, well, there's 4,000 people at the game. That must mean that it can't sustain a baseball team. They know what's going on. They see it. We all see it. So I wrote this piece like a week ago. Now it's already moot because I also said the A's will never go to Vegas, and here we are. Do you think now, looking at it with the potential move, do you think I was wrong? Was it an intentional thing to tank this team in this way? And if so, what do you think the A's have to gain from tanking like this that they didn't already have just operating like a normal baseball team would? Go ahead, Jen.
Like, you know, the hand raised.
Was waiting to be called on. I'm very polite. I am of the camp that I think this was a very intentional decision to drive away fans. And I definitely can see an argument that it was just bad business decisions that just compounded. But it felt very intentional. And the way that I interpreted that was, oh, look, the Warriors left. Oh, look, the Raiders left. We can't have sports here. And the only path forward is in Vegas or whatever insert city here. And that's just how it felt to me. But once that's been ingrained enough, every decision just looks like that to me.
But here's the thing. I'll let you go in a second, Kim. Here's the thing with
Put
that
your hand down.
is if you cut the Bay Area in half, right, and split it half to the A's, half to the Giants. If you flip it 25-75 to the Giants, it's still a larger market than Las Vegas. And
Yeah.
now with the move to Las Vegas, you've got the Las Vegas A's, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the LA Dodgers, the San Diego Padres, and the Los Angeles Angels. That's 5 teams within 330 miles of each other. So they will move closer to those teams than they are right now. Right? So that market now it's a day trip.
Super oversaturated.
Now it's a day trip. If I live in LA, I can make a drive to Vegas and go see an A's game. So they've gone to a smaller market and a more congested market all in once. What do they have to gain from making that move? What do they have to gain from tanking? Because like I said, the owners know what's going on. They know that it's a tank job. What do they have to gain? I think this is just another unintentional, stupid business move.
Can't roll that out.
I'm just gonna go. So looking at like historical trends and other teams, I'm going to use the Pittsburgh Pirates as my number one source because they sucked for years. I know that they did like boycotts, they did walkouts, everything, and they still, because they were like, our owners, they're not paying for things, they're just letting this team be trash year after year, and that was a fair point. They fight like no one's threatening to take their stadium away. The Rays have bad attendance. They're a winning team. That does just because you win doesn't guarantee that you're going to get things you want. I know the Rockies are kind of boycotting their team, that they're having a similar issue because they're trying to move too. Apparently, the Diamondbacks are trying to move to a new stadium because they're upset with their situation. Whatever. And I know I've heard rumblings that their potential new stadium is not happening now, or there's issues that, which is cool. But you can't. I had so many people in my mentions today, and it was pissing me off every single time. They're like, "This is the fans' fault for not going to the games." I'm like, "Excuse me." But then I said it to him. I was like, this person was like, "Don't bring up other franchises." I was like, because if I bring up other franchises, it proves that your statement is wrong. That it's not the fans' fault because fans not showing up to other teams, they didn't lose their team. So how is it only Oakland? There's something going on behind the scenes that they just don't give a shit. And the Raiders weren't horrible when they left. They had people going. They still left. The Warriors were winning. They still left. The attendance does not impact it. This is a stupid business decision. The fact that they're tanking just is...
Counterpoint. Oh, go ahead, Carl.
No, I was going to say something, but you go ahead.
I am absolutely not ruling out just strictly stupid business decisions, because that wouldn't shock me at all if I found out they were a bunch of like raccoons in a coat, clacking away at a keyboard. And in fact, I would actually prefer that, because at least that would be adorable. I guess it would be possums if we're sticking on brand, but
there we go.
If they're trying to follow what is going on with the Raiders, which is if our fans follow, great. If not, that's not how we plan to put butts in seats. We plan to, hey, hotel, give out these tickets to your high rollers or your guests, or, use it as a perk. And we can put, 25% of our stadium as tickets that we're giving out to these casinos to give out as perks. Because every time I go to Vegas, I get all sorts of weird stuff that I'm like, I don't want to go see that show, but for free, I'll go. And then I'm buying food and drinks and merch and whatever. And then especially if I've had food and drink and merch, then I'm going to go gamble. And now I'm going to put money back into those casinos. So it's lucrative. There is a business model to doing it this way. I think it's shit.
But for 81 games? That's where it gets questionable. Like, you could do that football. Yeah, there's 10 games.
Oh, I'm not saying that this was a wise. well calculated decision, but that's the only thing that can make any sense, because there's no way they're going to be drawing actual fans in any sort of large number. They're just not there.
The only way, and sorry if you weren't done.
Who knows if I was done?
The only
hard to say.
Yeah, we'll never be done. So there, yeah. Just because you get a new stadium doesn't mean you'll fill it or be good. See Marlins. Just because you move to Vegas to get a new stadium doesn't mean it's necessarily going to go well. See Raiders. The only way that people are going to actually come is if John Fisher actually opens his wallet and actually buys actually good players. So, I mean, that's been the carrot that they've been dangling this whole time. Oh, well, if we get a stadium, we're going to get all these players and we're going to be a great team. That's been the carrot they've been dangling the whole time. And I mean, I'll believe it when I see it, but I don't know.
Yeah. But the thing is we're never going to see it, because we have a real world example in how John Fisher and Dave Kaval have managed the San Jose Earthquakes. They're not spending the extra money over there. They got their new stadium. They got the world's largest bar or whatever it is that Kaval's always bragging about, and they're not spending more. And when push comes to shove, football is a tourist attraction. People will travel to go watch the Cardinals play the Raiders or whatever, like they will travel to see that because it only happens once a year. And you can build a whole weekend around it. It's either Thursday, Sunday, or Monday, right? Baseball is not that. Once the novelty of a new stadium in Las Vegas wears off, Tuesday nights in Las Vegas against who knows? The Rays is going to be another 10,000 seat sell. Right? They're going to face the same issues they have in Oakland because they don't have the home team fan base there. And Oakland A's fans aren't going to travel for a Tuesday game. They may abandon the team altogether. And the opposing team isn't going to travel for a Tuesday night game. So they're going to see, okay, we have to sell well on 81 games. But if half of those home games are just given to hotels to give away, they're not making the same kind of revenue they'd make if they were sold to actual fans of the game. And right, so I'm a musician. I'm in the musical theater community. When Jersey Boys went from Broadway to Las Vegas years ago, this is probably close to 20 years ago now, they made the casino that hosted Jersey Boys said you need to cut this much stuff content out of your show to bring it down to 90 minutes. Because we don't want people off the casino floors. We don't want people out of our buffets and our restaurants. We want people, this is just fancy dressing. The meat and potatoes is outside of this theater, right? And Jersey Boys came up with all these innovations to make scene changes faster. They didn't end up having to cut content, but they sped up the pace of play for that play. Baseball's not going to be any different. Football, you have a little bit more leeway because it's one game a weekend for like 10 weeks, and everybody that goes out afterwards is going to go to the casinos and bars and drink, and they're going to spend a whole weekend in Vegas to watch that one game. I just don't see how baseball is going to be able to do that on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday afternoon. Who's going to a baseball game in Las Vegas on a Wednesday afternoon to watch Las Vegas's team, which is 1 year old, versus some, last place division rival? Well, not division rival because we're last place in the division, but you know what I mean.
That would rivals us.
Who's going to spend that money and that time to go to those games? The novelty of a new stadium is only valuable to the fan base of that team.
Yeah.
Right? The novelty of a new stadium for the Oakland A's is only valuable to the A's. It is not valuable to Las Vegas. And so I would think within 5 years, the Las Vegas A's, or whatever they're going to brand themselves as at that point, are going to be pulling in similar numbers to a Wednesday afternoon or a Tuesday night in Oakland. Then what are they going to do? Fisher's not going to spend money.
They're going to move.
We know
to
that's not true. So then what? Yeah, are we going to abandon this stadium and move to another city?
Salt Lake City.
It's just so misguided and short-sighted. that baseball thinks that they are the same as football or even really the same as hockey. Because there's plenty of people who will go to a hockey game in Vegas because that is an attraction.
It was also
Hockey's
a
different.
organic team to Las Vegas. It wasn't a team that they ripped out of a, you know, fan base. And so I could imagine that there would be a lot of excitement when you bring a team to being the first team and it's new and it's local and it's homegrown and they get a new, you know, stadium, and that's exciting, and they happen to actually be good. That helps. But that's not what this is going to be.
Right. And E pointed out in the chat here, plus the Aviators are staying. So
I was wondering about that.
So now you've got two baseball teams that are competing for a fan base, and the Aviators are already established.
I think that kind of goes into my collateral damage thing. I think that pulling attendance from the Aviators and sending them over to the Athletics is something that Fisher and Kaval don't care about. I think they're like, well, whatever. If they don't get attendance and we get it, great. I think that there's just a whole thrash, like a path of wreckage behind them in this whole process.
I agree with that, and I'll let you go in a second, Kim. Who was it here? Deanna, who I believe I know from Twitter, says it's from my earlier rant. Says it seems like I'm blaming Kaval more than John Fisher, and it's Fisher that should take all the blame. I agree with that, and in what Carl was talking about, you're pitting your own teams against each other because as of right now, the Aviators are an A's farm system. So Fisher will always find a reason not to pay, right? Now he's saying small market, but he's not a small market. He's like in the third or fourth biggest market in the country. So that's garbage. But you move to Vegas, you are in a small market all of a sudden, and you're competing with your own farm team. So that's going to be another excuse. And you're paying off a $1 billion stadium. That's going to be another excuse. So if he's hemorrhaging fans off of the Aviators, that's going to be an excuse not to pay, to throw money in a payroll for the major league team. The expense of recouping the expense of the stadium is going to be an excuse not to put money into the payroll of the major league team. All these things, not being able to sell out on a Tuesday night in the middle of the summer in Las Vegas is going to be an excuse not to do payroll advancements. So Kaval is already out there saying, once we do this, we're going to be among the big dogs as far as payroll goes. But first, I don't think they're going to see the jump in payroll or into revenue that they think they're going to see. They'll get bumps on the weekends, obviously, because it's Vegas, but their broadcasting contracts aren't going to be any better. And now they're competing with, like I said earlier, they're competing with 4 other teams that are within driving distance of a weekend trip. So I don't think their revenues are going to go up a crazy amount when you factor in that they'll lose revenue shares from the rest of baseball. I don't think the net gains are going to be all so much positive that they're all of a sudden going to be able to compete with the Dodgers as far as payroll.
No.
And so Fisher will use all of these things as an excuse not to pay. E also says they'll move back to Oakland in 13 years in some kind of doom loop, which, I mean, Oakland, once Vegas, if the A's move to Vegas, Oakland will now become the most logical destination for an expansion team. Jen.
I'll let Kim go because I think she's had her hand up and I'm scared of her.
I love that answer.
Because you can beat me up.
So 2 things. One, are the Aviators even selling out their games? Because I don't think that, I know they get a good attendance, but I don't think they're selling out every game. So that should be your first indication of how things are going to go. Going back to the comment about like a weekend trip, like with football. So back in 2017, I went to the Royal Stadium. I was talking with some Royal fans who were unfortunately Chiefs fans, which, I mean, I get it, you live there. And that was like right when it was announced the Raiders were indeed going to Vegas. And I was talking with them because they were like, what are your thoughts? I'm like, obviously it sucks, man. Thanks. And their comments were, this is fantastic. It's absolutely the stupidest thing for the Raiders because you're losing your entire fan base. You're going to a site where any opposing team fans are obviously going to come. They're like, a weekend in Vegas and you get to see your football team. Hell yeah. They're like, so you're going to divide your attendance into 3 parts. One, any fans that do want to come visit, travel from Oakland or LA to Vegas to see the team. He's like, the other third is going to be away fans. He's like, possibly more than that. He's like, and the other ones are going to be the free comp tickets from the casinos. He's like, you are putting your fans as the lower percentage of people in attendance. He's like, it is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. He's like, but I would much rather go to Vegas and hang out and party for a weekend than go to Oakland. Which I was like, one, rude. But then you also look around like the Coliseum, there's nothing there. Tony Fry has left the meeting. What is happening?
It is my meeting now.
I'm the captain now.
I know, seriously. Look at me. I'm the captain. There.
Oh,
we're back.
Earlier, I figured out how to make my photo the biggest, and I was like,
yeah, the spotlight.
Oh, no. Don't need that. Hi, Tony. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome to our channel. Kat has her hand raised. Yes.
One thing we haven't discussed yet and is on my mind because when I moved, I was like, oh, I'm cutting cable and I'm just going to stream. So I was like, I'm going to get MLB TV. And no one warned me that I would not be able to watch A's game on MLB TV because I'm in market. But no one also warned me that I wouldn't be able to see pretty much any of the California teams. So I had to get YouTube TV. So now I pay for 2 streaming services so that I can watch baseball all the time, which I'm willing to do. I want to watch as many games as possible in a day because I work from home. But if the A's move to Vegas, is the Bay Area still going to be blacked out for the A's? Or is that considered out of market because it's not in California?
Well, that's interesting because I know the Raiders, when they moved, that was like our concern was like, would we still be able to watch the Raider games because they're no longer in market? So far, we still can. But I think there was one game that the Niners were playing at the same time and they did black it out. But for the most part, we can still watch them here. Yes, Jen.
One time the A's were blacked out and I was very upset about it. And Tony Fry and I went all the way to the Coliseum and got there in like the 3rd or 4th inning. And I got to see a grand slam. It was Brandon Moss, I'm pretty sure.
Brandon Moss, yeah.
Moss.
Never forget. I also saw a grand slam once while I was getting a rally margarita. And that's how I know it works. It doesn't always work. Asterisk.
Speaking of good memories, we've talked about a lot of not so good thoughts on this call, a lot of airing of grievances. Does everyone have a favorite game? Just to put something good out there. One game, you can pick one game that was your favorite game you attended at the Coliseum. I mean, I definitely do, so I'm happy to go first if you want to think about it.
Go first.
I mean, I feel like we all know which game it is.
Which
game?
game?
We're there. I mean, there was like so many games, but I feel like
I have 10.
Yeah, like 2012, like game 162, like.
So that was the game, but not for the reason you think.
Ooh.
No, nothing like that. It was just like, so as I've said, my dad passed away in 2013, March of 2013 to be specific. So in 2012, I was away for a work trip. I was doing like sales training in the Central Valley. I don't know if I was in Bakersfield or Fresno or something. And and so there was the first game of the 3 that they had to win. I was trying to get it on the TV at the where I was staying. Wasn't on any of the TVs in Central Valley. Called all the bars in the area. None of them had it on TV. I'm like, this is awesome. So I ended up, what I ended up doing was The Natural was on TV. So I watched that on TV while I listened to the game on A's Twitter. I was like, this is about as close as I can get. So then I drove home the following day listening to the next game. Zito was pitching, and I could literally hear them chanting Zito, Zito through the radio. And I was like getting like watery while I'm driving. I'm like, okay, I got to focus on the road here. Get home, watch the end of the game. And this was this was game 161. And my dad, who had battled cancer for 10 years and finally succumbed to it in 2013, he was watching the game as well. And I was like, this is crazy. I think it was a Tuesday night, because I think it was a Wednesday game. Yeah. So Tuesday night, I'm watching the end of the game, and I'm like, if they win this game, I'm texting him. I'm like, if they win this game, I'm calling in sick tomorrow and I'm going to the game. And I'm buying a ticket to the game tomorrow. And he replies back, by 2. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I like, text my boss. I'm like, yeah, I'm not feeling great. And the following morning, yep, sure enough, I've got a cold or whatever. I don't know. And so I get up early. I go get some breakfast. I go pick up my dad, and he was, his mobility was a little less than what it was before, and so he was moving slow, and he wasn't ready to go. And I was just so frustrated that we had to get going. We had to get to the game. We finally get to the game, and he's walking slow, and we finally walk all the way down to our seats, and it's like the 5th inning, and I'm like, fantastic. And I think we were down like 5-2. And I'm like, great. So I did all this work to watch them not win. This is, and then couple hits, the Cespedes pop up, the Hamilton drop, and the whole Coliseum explodes. Just absolutely. I've never heard an explosion of noise like that. And we're just, we're chatting with the people around us. It was a flat out party at the Coliseum. And then once we got the momentum on our side, it just carried on. And then we saw them win the division, and he got to see a couple of playoff games. And that was the season where, in the beginning of the season, we were expected to come in dead last. We were expected to be atrociously bad, and we just weren't. And I always tell people, I'm like, I think the baseball gods were like, this guy who's had season tickets for so long, he's got to see one more good season. I don't know what we got to do, but it just worked. And so that's by far my favorite game.
I can sort of relate to that. I have my own 2012 story. I was at game 160 and called in sick for 162. And like, don't get me wrong, those were absolutely incredible moments to watch unfold for a multitude of reasons. I was at the Manaea no-hitter in 2018. Kimm, cover your ears. I was there. I was dating a Red Sox fan, and he was shit talking just a storm like all Red Sox fans do. And I was like, scoreboard, bro. And he's like, we're good. No hit right now. I was like, yeah, you're an idiot. You're not paying attention at all. It's the 6th inning. And the guy in front of me turns around. And he's like, your girlfriend's a lot smarter than you are, bro. I'm like, thank you, kind sir. I was also at the no-hitter in 2019. Again, Kimm, cover your ears. Fears. I was there with Eric. Fires. Had 2 glasses of wine.
That's when the lights broke, right? The lights.
So for context, that was my first game of the season. I had been on a vacation pre-planned before opening night, so I missed opening night. And the only reason I was there that day was that Eric Nelson and one of our friends who was moving to Chicago wanted to go to an A's game before he moved, and I was viciously sick. This was before I realized I had a tumor, but I most certainly had a tumor because I was dying like actively the whole game. I mean, I was like violently sick. I was in pain. I had the chills. I like was just not having a good time. And when the lights wouldn't turn on, I was like, you guys have fun. I'm going home. I can't sit through this. Like, this is torture. And he's like, it's my last game before I move. So I got guilt tripped into staying. And I couldn't drink a glass of water, a sip of water. I mean, it was like really bad. It was really stupid, quite frankly, against I'm sure all medical advice to be there. But Eric got to see a no-hitter. My friend got to see a no-hitter before he moved to Chicago, and I got to see it. And then I went through all my health stuff. And I think I only went to 2 games that season. 2020, I went to 0 games that season, and 2021, I went to 2. So it was, thank God I was there. I really shouldn't have been. I could have watched that from my couch, but Kimm watched it from her couch.
Go fuck yourself. It's a sore subject, and you know that. I have like 2, and only one is like actual baseball related. Obviously, game 162. Like at that time I was working for a military contracting company, and that was an election year. And so we had the military shut down all bidding. So we were we wrapped a project in July and we're just sitting in the office with nothing to do for months, hoping that something was going to come up. And so I was like, my neighbor who has season tickets was like, I have an extra ticket if you want to go. This was like weeks before. And I was like, can I go? Like, ain't nothing happening here. And so my boss was like, yeah, that's fine. Cool, cool, cool. Then everything that happened that led up to that game, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. Like, obviously it was great that I went with my neighbor and his friend. They're older, and his friend like got sick and was like throwing up during the game, and they're like, we're gonna leave. I was like, bye, I'll take Bart home, I'm not leaving. And like I remember just like crying and cheering because it was so great. And I had earlier that season had gone on the road trip and went and saw them in Boston in May, and like it was rainy, it was miserable. I was talking with Boston fans, and then my friend worked for a radio station in Grass Valley, and they're like, we'd love to talk to you about sports. And I like called in, and I was like, there's something about this team. I'm like, I know it sounds stupid, I know everyone's expecting them to finish dead last. I'm like, but I have a feeling something's gonna turn up. I was like, there's so many new people, new faces. I feel like once they like start to click, like it's gonna be an interesting season. And they were like, I don't know. And I was like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. If they might finish dead last, they might surprise everyone. And they did. And obviously the playoff games were so much fun. And I mean, the way the season ended, but like the way it ended, if I don't know, like who else was at that game 5, or just like being there in the stadium and everyone chanting, but the fucking Tigers just like got off the field and like sobbing in my seat, chanting, let's go Oakland. Just that's a memory that is permanently ingrained and is just such a vivid one. And then non-baseball was that I was an extra in Moneyball.
I mean, obviously for me, because I'm a little older than the two of you,
as
not
we've established.
Carl, not Carl. But like, I remember sitting on my couch when the earthquake hit in '89. I remember, like I said, heckling Jose Canseco. But one of the best baseball memories I have is of the A's, but it's not even from the park. Was 2012 game 162. My best friend and my sister, we've established Jennifer's age, we didn't get tickets to the game, or we couldn't get there in time or something, but we ended up going to the Buffalo Wild Wings in Dublin. And we were there among,
as one does,
an entire restaurant filled with A's fans, right? Because they got the big screens and you can sit there, and as long as you keep ordering drinks, they don't make you leave. And so we were there with a restaurant full of A's fans. And every time the game went our way, the whole restaurant exploded. And when we finally took the lead and won, there was no difference to me between being in that Buffalo Wild Wings and being in the Oakland Coliseum. It was an entire section's worth of people that had stayed for the entire game in a random bar in Dublin just to watch this thing happen. And I've got video of it on my personal YouTube page. We're all chanting the "Let's go Oakland" and all that stuff. It was as if we were in that game. And that was like a magical moment, because obviously, like you said, this was a do or die game. We weren't expected to even be in a do or die situation by game 162, let alone win it. And I'm there surrounded by all these people that were just going nuts in a restaurant, all dressed in their jerseys and their hats and all of that, doing the chants and everything. And when you've lived through that and you hear people make the argument that there's not enough of a fan base in the Bay Area for the A's, you know it's bull, because the stadium was sold out. That Buffalo Wild Wings was sold out. I'm sure we weren't the only ones, right? There are people in this area that love this team. It's ingrained in their soul, whether they're of the generation that watched the dynasty in the 70s, the generation that watched the dynasty in the 80s, the generation that watched the big three in the early 2000s, the generation that saw the Bob Melvin era of like 2/3 of his seasons went to the playoffs. I mean, we are all so ingrained with it, and that just like that will always stick in my head as one of those baseball memories. Even though I wasn't in the park, I wasn't watching the game in person, but it didn't matter because I was like surrounded by all these people who had one common interest. And despite having 1,000 interests that contradicted each other, we all came together for that one interest. And going back to what I said earlier, if Fisher and Kaval can't capitalize on that kind of ingrained passion and love and support, then they don't deserve this team. Carl, go.
Yeah, a couple of things. So Kim, you were mentioning Game 5 of, I think it was 2012.
Yeah.
The analogy or the comparison that I saw somewhere after Game 5 was as if what the A's fans did who were in the stands after Game 5 was just like what the residents of Whoville did when all of their Christmas gifts were taken away. And instead of crying or being sad that their Christmas was taken away, they just got together and sang, and they just appreciated what they had. And it was exactly like that. And it was like, I mean, it was one of those things. I have a video of that. I'll see if I can find that as well. I've got all these things to tweet. And yeah, it was, the game was over, season was over. We were like, that was awesome. And we all just started cheering way louder. Then, sorry, my cat keeps roaming around back here.
Sorry, this is amazing.
more cats.
Yes, more cats
right here.
Oh, hello.
Hi, kitty cat.
So the second thing I was going to say was, Tony, in response to what you were saying, it's easy to think about all the fans, especially the diehard fans who are active on Twitter, going to the games, the ones that are loud, the ones that are talking, the ones that haven't given up and haven't given up their tickets, and but it's and those are the ones that are easy to realize that you've pissed off because they are the loudest ones. But the ones who are silent, the casual fans who are just they were just in it for fun. They were in it because the team was good. There's a whole lot more of those that are silent, that are left behind, that would have gone to the game if the payroll were a little bit higher, or they just tried a little bit to put, what Kim was saying, something on the field. Doesn't have to be an amazing team, just something. So
make an attempt.
Yeah, try, pretend like you're trying. Jen,
Q has pointed out. Q has pointed
Please.
out in the chat that we are all playing "I'm Not Older Than You" while simultaneously waxing nostalgia, and they are dying.
But I am the youngest.
Yep, we know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, someone on Twitter was like, "You're too old to possibly root from the Dodgers," and I was like, "Homie, I was like literally a baby when that happened. You think I have strong memories of the A's Dodgers? I was a literal baby."
I do.
Yes, we've established that Tony is old. I'm just kidding.
I remember when Ray Fosse was behind the plate in 1974.
So rapid fire, a couple of things. One, Tony, I have watched many a playoff A's game at that Buffalo Wild Wings. I have vivid memories of taking the napkin and we turned it into rally towels. And I have some photos that it clearly looks like I've had, too many beers, which for anyone that doesn't know me, I have a very low alcohol tolerance. So too many beers is like 1.5 or like 1.25. The pinned video is when I had a margarita and then Carl and Kim had to listen to me sing Queen all night. I had one margarita. I never finished that second one because the first one was so that was pushing it.
First of all, that video was amazing. And that was the night that we learned that you can tweet videos to hashtag at the Coliseum.
What a great night to find out that we can tweet videos.
That was amazing. I was like, I don't think they put videos on. Sure enough, Jet on loop. Stop it.
I'm sure they had sort of engineer that was like, oh, this is great. We're going to have to figure out how to do this. So they were clacking.
It was amazing.
to Carl, I was going to say the same thing about Game 5 in 2012 getting officially bounced by the Tigers. The immediate we lost was pretty much instantaneously replaced with "Let's go Oakland" cheers. And I just vividly recall walking back to BART, and it was like cattle trying to get through to BART. I mean, it was just horrific. You know, it probably took half an hour just to get across the BART bridge, but everyone was cheering "Let's go Oakland" for like at least an hour and a half. The entire ride back to Dublin, the train was saying "Let's go Oakland," and I've never really experienced that. One of the quick things I wanted to mention when we were talking about our favorite game at work, it was either today or yesterday, they were talking about like a moment that is deeply ingrained. And I was like, I'm really embarrassed, but my deeply ingrained memories are all baseball, all of them. Sunday, I went to the 1973 reunion with my mom, who was talking about how 1973 was the season that she was finally old enough to have friends that could drive. And they would drive her from Livermore to the Coliseum, and she would just have to skip like 1 or 2 classes. It wasn't too big of a deal. You tell my mom was like, she's like, whatever. And I'm like, Mom, you know that in high school, I used to skip every 4th period of a day game. She goes, oh, I know. They call you. You know that they call you to say that your kid skipped. And it was like, no. She goes, oh, yeah. And I would just say you had doctor's.
Good job, Mom.
That's a good mom.
A number of years since I was in high school, and this was the day that I found out that my mom lied so I could go to Wednesday games. Because I was back when they did Dollar Dogs, Bart Wednesdays,
Oh, yeah,
like
Dollar
all
Dogs.
these things that are,
days.
as we've discussed, we're old. We're all collectively old.
The thing is, though, too, it just
That's not
popped
that
into
long
my
ago.
head, is also one of my best memories from baseball and the A's was the wild card game. And I was writing for Swingin' A's. Jennifer was writing for Swingin' A's. And we all went
Which
to
one?
wherever we went.
2014.
The one.
The one.
The
game.
one
I mean, I like
the one that
wild
we
card,
won
and
4
my body
times
like tenses up automatically.
the one that we
wild
won 4
card.
times and still lost.
The one against the Royals.
The one that if I had to
Yeah.
give it
That
that
one.
one with a gun to my head, I would be like, so what happened was it all went downhill when Giovanni Soto hurt his finger.
But see, the thing and also Lester's inability to throw to first.
Derek Norris not being able to make a throw to second
Let's
to
just
save
blame
his
Johnny
life.
Jones.
But like that whole thing. So Jennifer and I were both writing for FanSided. We had a couple other FanSided writers there. We had organized like a group watch party in Fremont. I forget where it was. It might have been another Buffalo Wild
It probably
Wings.
was the Buffalo Wild Wings.
I will tell you right now, I'm just realizing this. Literally every time I've ever stepped into a Buffalo Wild Wings might have been for a baseball game. But we had this watch party, and obviously the team lost. It was heartbreaking. But I drove home. I had my best friend and Nick, who you all know from Twitter and who wrote for Swingin' A's at the time. He drove home with me. We carpooled up there. It was dead silent. And even that, as horrible as that was at the time, is still a good memory because like we were there with friends. There's so many friends that I wouldn't have if not for A's baseball and A's Twitter to an extension, right? Jennifer, I wouldn't have reacquainted with as an adult. Kimm and Carl, I wouldn't have met. Jason, who now runs the Talkin' A's podcast, I think that's what it's called. I wouldn't have met a good friend of mine. You know, Nick, Steve from 1 2 3 4 Go Records. All these guys. Susan, who's a good friend of mine now. I wouldn't have met any of these people without the A's, right? Susan for a long time was my concert buddy. We'd go to rock shows all the time because her husband and I have very different tastes in music. So she needed someone to go to. And, you know, when she comes to the area now, we hang out, we have drinks. I wouldn't have known any of these people without this baseball team.
100%.
Without the connection that we have through the wins and the losses. And sometimes it's more of the losses that bond us than the victories, right?
100%.
We're here right now because of a loss.
That's exactly what I was talking to people about today. I mean, the team moving is obviously not great, and none of us are enthusiastic about that. But the thing that absolutely wrecked me today as I was processing it is that there is absolutely never going to be another opportunity where I'm going to have a large collection of these people all in one place, all at one time, organically. It's not like I organized, oh, we're all going to go to the A's game on Saturday. I just tweet that I'm there, and then someone's like coming up to my seat in the middle of between innings, and they're like, "Hey, are you Jennifer?" I'm like,
exactly.
My mom thinks I'm cool now. Thank you for this moment.
When I was doing the podcast, I had people recognizing me at games. I was at a San Jose Giants game once because I also covered them for a bit, and some random walked up to me because he recognized me from the podcast. It's like I'd go to a game and I'd go meet one person that I knew from Twitter at the game, and during the fourth inning go to a bar and have a different person from Twitter buy me a beer. Like, those things are not that I care about being popular or recognized in this ballpark, but just that connection that these people, we all feel like we know each other. We all went through the off-season tragedies together. We're all celebrating one person's engagement while mourning another person's passing. And that's got nothing to do with baseball. Baseball is just what's connected us, and specifically A's baseball. And this team in this area in Oakland is what's connected all of us. And I don't think that it will disappear when the A's go to Las Vegas. But in the same sense that, no, because in the same sense that, I had a lot of close friends in high school, and I've got 3 of their phone numbers right now, 20 years later. It's going to be the same thing. We're like, we all have this connection from the past. At some point, the connection of the Oakland A's is going to be in the past. And so it's not going to be the same. And it's not going to be as meaningful across the board. Obviously, the 3 of you, I will always communicate with and always love.
You're stuck with us, Tony.
Right.
I tell Kimm this regularly.
But I'm never, just between you and me, I'm never talking to Steve again. I mean, come on, let's get real.
Are there?
Where is Steve?
Yeah, where is he?
He is busy preparing for Record Store Day on Saturday. He was invited, and he said he's being swamped because he just got 1,000 records to sort through this week.
Kim and I. I've had 2 glasses of wine, so hello. We went to the A's Rays game last season where there was a whopping 2,400 people, and I finally got to say more people follow me on Twitter than A's attendance, which was like funny in that one time, but then when it became a recurring joke, it was not as funny. The one time it was
Rays. That was the other shitty team in Florida, the Marlins.
The Marlins. I mean, pick your pick. We went to a lot of games last year
that we just like walked around and sat wherever we wanted because there was literally nobody there. And then that's where we thought the 50-50 was.
Yes. we each
bought 50-50 tickets to see if it was rigged because we've never known anyone that's won it, and now we know someone that
there were 2,400 people there. Why didn't we hear a woo when someone won the 50-50 raffle?
When they won that $1,000.
I got real tinfoil hat about that last season until finally someone I knew won, because I was like, there's no way, there's nobody here, we should know who won. Just saying.
Well, I appreciate you all. Obviously, hopefully this won't be the last time we get to. This is, I think, therapeutic for us. The people in the chat seem to be engaged. I'm sure more people will watch it in the next week on YouTube. For those who are wondering, the Warriors won today.
Ew.
So
sorry.
There is that. I know.
Look, let me have this one thing, Kimm.
I'm sorry. Are they gonna pay? Are they planning to pay Oakland the money that they owe?
I mean, if you take the money that the Warriors owe and the monies that the Raiders owe, they probably could have filled that $80 million gap. I'm just saying.
Thank you.
Just saying.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew.
More importantly, can we meet Carl's cat?
Well,
I don't know where mine's probably long since asleep somewhere. Because my bedtime's like 9 p.m.
Well, I figured this would be an hour, and then I also figured that nobody would watch because the Warriors were playing. That this would be everyone will watch tomorrow, but there seems to be some lovely folks in the chat, and then you guys have all stayed for the whole time.
I can show you my fun coin purse.
Oh my God.
Dude, can I tell a very quick story? Because Kimm, that is oddly reminiscent of the kitty blanket from many years ago.
Story.
Many years ago, and I'll give you the abridged version. A's fans organized a let's all go to A's Giants. It was probably the exhibition game before the season started.
During the season.
Was it regular season? I couldn't remember.
Season.
But you know, everyone wore gold, and you know,
It was
we really
gold out. Yeah.
gold out. But Kimm and I were like, we don't want to sit in the bleachers.
We don't sit in bleachers. I had the like sweet tickets from work.
So we went and sat in our nice seats, and there was a man that had a blanket because San Francisco was cold. But we were kind of staring at it, and we're like, is there a custom screen print cat on his blanket? And it was just his cat's face blown up to be the size of a blanket. And I now really want Kimm and I to get kitty blankets.
Well, Q was just...
It was one of the best things I've ever seen. But then he turns around and he goes, I follow you on Twitter. And I was like, kitty blanket man, who are you? And I've never heard from him. He's never been like, I think he was lying.
It was so amazing.
Q has just said that Kimm showing her kitty purse was not safe for work. So we have to put a rating on this video now.
I mean, it kind of looks like Sunny Gray, but less creepy. Well, I mean, Sunny Gray is less creepy.
Cat,
my cat,
Sunny Gray, the Twins pitcher, who I recently found out is still pitching.
Yes, so my cat is Sunny Gray, named for Sunny Gray. Yeah.
I tried to name my cat Coco, as in crisp, and it failed.
Is that your cat's name?
No, I tried really hard. Oh, yeah, Carl's cat.
No. I was gonna say, so the one that just ran, that's Apollo, but the other, we have two cats actually. So the second cat, Lexi wanted to get a black cat, an all black cat, and call it Bean, like our little black bean. And then I said, well, why don't we just add an E to the end, and it could be Bean, like Billy Bean. So our cat's name was Bean with an E. Yeah.
So I tried to name my cat Coco, and she wouldn't. It didn't work. So she became Lola because I was just going for kind of 2-syllable simple name because cats respond to that. But when I got a black lab, we named her Kona, like Kona Bean, and no one calls her Kona. We all call her Bean. And I'm like, let me be clear, it's not Bean like a bean, it's Bean like a bean with an E. And everyone in my family knows the joke, but whenever someone hears us yell at our dog, we're like, Bean. We're like, you know,
Tony, is this where you saw
Brad
the
Pitt?
We went way off topic. It's like
Twitter after dark, but now we're on Google Meets.
It's like mute.
Well, Eric from the Portuguese Heritage Night, which I have been a participant in several times, thanks us for all meeting tonight. Matthew Stassi, Q. Oh, everybody seems to have appreciated that we all got together. Hopefully this won't be the last time. We should do this again and talk about other stuff as it progresses. Obviously, we won't talk about the team because they may never win a game again. But
it's now a good time to mention that I made a bet with a Chicago Cubs fan that if the A's only gave up 25 runs in a series, I'd win. He would have to take 26 and more. So naturally, the A's gave up exactly 26 runs, and now I have to make a custom-themed Oakland box to mail to Chicago.
Their run differential might hit 1,000 this year at the rate they're going.
I should have took 40 and under. 30
to win. I think they're on pace to win 26 games.
It's stupid. I did a
that's
thing.
On pace, but that's not going to happen.
I did a thing this morning where I analyzed the 5 worst records in baseball and where they were in the first 19 games. The worst team in baseball, the 1916 A's, were 7-12 in their first 19. So even the worst team in baseball had 4 more wins than they've got right now.
Well, and realistically, I don't foresee them having a better second half. Because, you know, I don't religiously follow AAA the way that I used to back when it was, you know, the top prospects are just lurking at that doorstep of coming to Oakland. Now it's like, who? oh,
Yeah, what
Yeah.
the hell happened with like they kept trading
we
away players,
traded
they're like
everyone
we're
that was
building
good.
up, but they like the reason they kept trading away like our top players like on the actual team was to like build up the farm system. I was like, so we lost Olsen, Chapman, Murphy, all these people, and our farm system still sucks.
I could do a whole discussion on
the math ain't
shitty baseball
mathin'.
decisions. The math ain't mathin'.
One last thing I want to say about just going to games this season, because I know that the attendance, which is already abysmal, is going to get abysmaler. It's going to get worse.
The cellar has a basement.
Yeah, exactly. But since I already, as a season ticket holder, and I share with a bunch of people, so I have a handful of games, and I've already purchased them. They're already, they're already bought. And I know that some people are trying to get their money back and things like that, and they're just flat out boycotting. I'm looking at this. I think I tweeted this, that my focus has shifted from like trying to get good seats at Howard Terminal to just, I want to enjoy the last shred of Oakland baseball that I can. And so I'm still going to go. I'm still going to have a good time if I can. It's going to be, it's not going to be the same. It's going to have a dark cloud over the whole thing, but it's still, you can still go to a ballpark in the middle of summer, get some sunshine, have a beer, have a hot dog, watch a baseball game, and try to forget the fact that the team is leaving, So I recommend I recommend you try to do the same, just for no other reason than you had good memories. Don't have it be about the team. Don't have it be about them, winning the World Series or doing anything crazy like that. It's just a baseball game in the sun in Oakland, period. That's all it is. Enjoy it.
Jen?
Well, you can.
Yeah, I share the same sentiment that I've kind of gone through a whirlwind of emotional roller coaster in the last, it's been a little over 24 hours now. I saw the tweets about the move, like as I was falling asleep, and I slept like a baby because I was just like, good, now we know. And I just went to sleep. But then I woke up and then I cried all day. So it hit me delayed. But my initial reaction was, I'm going to enjoy these moments while I have them, because the minute they're gone, I'm probably never going to step foot in Vegas. And so I will enjoy Oakland baseball while it is there, because it is something that's just fundamental to my personality. Anybody that knows me knows that that's like one of my favorite things to talk about. But June 13th, don't quote me on that because I don't have a calendar in front of me, was going to be the reverse protest against the Rays. It is still going forward. People are still planning to go. I'd understand people that aren't going to go now. It's a little bit different, but we're still protesting the exact same thing, or excuse me, reverse protesting the same thing. I mean, crappy ownership, just really screwing fans. But I also think it's going to be one hell of a going away party for those that can come and see other fans. And if you've never had an Oakland A's Coliseum tailgate, it is really not about the food and the alcohol. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's great. I've eaten some great things, and I've had beer out of people's trunks that I'm like, nice to meet you. And what beer do you have? And now I'm best friends with these people, because all these years later, I just was inquiring on their cooler situation. But it is something unlike anything I've experienced with my other sports teams. Just standing in the parking lot and making friends with people that I would have ordinarily never, ever gotten to meet. And I'm devastated that is being taken away from me. And I don't want to cry. So.
In baseball, for sure.
I think if this is still going on the 13th, sell the place out, never leave the tailgate. Let them play in front of an empty stadium and have 30,000 people sitting in barbecues in the parking lot.
I have great tickets to that night, so I will be in my good seat. Kim, I think I have too. But Tony, I feel the same way. I'll probably still show up to tailgates on a weekend, game, and then I probably will just leave and go home on BART. And I don't know. It's not going to be the same. I mean, I don't know how many people saw the Oakland 68s. They're not going to be drumming anymore. And that is going to be weird as hell. I totally support them in that decision, but it is going to be really weird because I don't have almost any baseball memory that doesn't involve drumming all the way back to when I was a teenager, because I've been sitting in left field since we're not doing the math, but since I was a teenager.
So 33 years. Kimm, go ahead.
I mean, like all of this, like obviously the last 24 hours have been like emotions like ranging, I was telling Tony before, like ranging from like really mad and angry to just like sad, hurt, betrayal. Like they're just, the emotions are all over. And I think my like breaking point was like in at work, and the tweet from John Axford was the one that broke me. Because I adore him anyways. He's just a fantastic person. But like as much as I don't want to go to the Coliseum and like go and like I feel like it's showing support for an owner that doesn't support the fans and doesn't care about us. At the same time, like I don't know how long I have left. It's kind of like a dying relative, or like you don't know how long you have. And so you want to enjoy those moments and those memories while you still can, to cherish them, because when it's gone, it's gone. You don't get it back. So like I would say, you know, take it for what it is. It's a farewell tour, if anything. Like we don't know what's going to happen. It sucks in the moment, but I mean, I'm still going to go to games. The players, they don't deserve this. Like they had no say in it either. So why should we punish them that they have to play in front of an empty stadium? And that's always been people's kind of thoughts on it, is that like the player shouldn't be punished because the owners suck. So it's just, it's a lot of emotions. Someone else speak.
Go ahead, Jen.
I will speak. One of the things that I kind of felt today was, it felt over dramatic, but it felt like there was a death in the family, because I had people reaching out to me that had to say, hey, this is so-and-so, because they assumed I didn't have their number anymore. How are you doing? Or how do you feel about this? And I'm like, that only occurs to me when there is a death, that all these people come out of the woodwork. And it was actually really nice to reconnect with a lot of these people, because it reminded me how much I value the people that I've met because of the A's, that have nothing to do with, you know, we're not only friends because of the A's. That's just how we met. I mean, Kimm is stuck with me. She knows that. But I decided that it didn't feel like a death. It actually felt a little more like getting served surprise divorce papers. Because I'm like, the sad part is that we're going to divorce the A's and they're going to go live their new happy life in Vegas. And I'm not going to be happy for them. I'm going to be absolutely actively bitter. And I don't wish them badly in Vegas, but I don't hope that they do great there. I don't want to see them thrive and succeed, because I wanted that in Oakland. I don't want to see that in Vegas, but they're still going to be my team. I'm not buying Vegas merch, and I'm not going to Vegas games. I will see them on the road. I'm about halfway through all the stadiums. So I'm just going to keep seeing the A's on the road, and I don't know.
I don't know. For me, I slept a lot better the night divorce papers were served than I did last time.
Well, Tony, I have a lot of comments on that one for
Jen,
another podcast.
That's a separate thing, though.
Trust me.
I'll let Carl put in the last word, and then I'll close us out for the night.
No.
And he's not. He's.
I was
you're
like,
muted,
why
but-
can't I hear him?
Carl gets the final word, and he's on mute.
I do work calls like this. I should be able to at least hit unmute. Yeah, I don't want to see them thrive either. I don't want to see Vegas have all the good stuff that we didn't have because of our terrible owner. I just, and it's a little petty, but it's also, A's fans have had it more rough than I think any other fan base in baseball. I don't know, maybe the Expos. I don't know. But like,
but they only lost one team.
If they have any tips for, support groups or anything, we're listening. Yeah, I just don't want to see Vegas. I don't want to see the Vegas Athletics become what we were always hoping the Oakland Athletics would become again, because they were, and then they weren't, and then it was just so terrible, and now they're gone, or essentially. Maybe not. We'll see. But for all intents and purposes, they are. So anyway, I just also, before I hand it over to you, Tony, to close us out, I just wanted to thank you for inviting me and for having Kimm and Jen and myself talk about this. I think this was a very therapeutic experience. I hope that those of you who are listening also got some good thoughts and some maybe got some solace out of this. This is a tough time for all A's fans. And there's no sugarcoating this. This is a tough pill to swallow. But thanks for having us, Tony. I appreciate it.
Well, I thank you all three for being here. I think this was a good chat. I think the people that were watching live enjoyed it, and I hope that more people will watch it over the next week or so as we kind of process, like you said, this death in the family. It is a very weird feeling to feel remorseful over something that is not a relative or even a single person, you know, but it's this experience that we all share together, and we share the highs and the lows, and we become attached. And like I said earlier, if there's the cat, if John Fisher and Dave Kaval can't appreciate that and can't nurture that and can't exploit that for unbelievable profits, then that is their lack of ability. It's not ours. And I hope we can do this again. There's a lot of baseball season left to go. There's a lot more developments I'm sure that we're going to see over the next few weeks and months about all this. And we'll do it again. Maybe this will be a regular thing and we can kind of get through this nonsense together. And as a last word to John Fisher and Dave Kaval, go screw yourself.